job.
I would harken back to one of our past episodes where we covered value outside of our paychecks, and how do you identify value in society and how do you reward it. I like that concept.
What is value outside of your paycheck?
So if you're going to school or you're having kids or you're doing something else, right? Like something where you are generating a benefit for society, but it isn't necessarily generating a paycheck.
Oh, how right. Yeah, that value add. Yeah. Like stay-at-home moms, that kind of thing. The value add. Yeah.
Whatever it may be, right? Those are the, two that popped into my head. Saying. So
that's what it is, though. But here's the thing: that's the issue is that.
But because we give an outsized dependency onto employers, because that's where our main
that's what capitalism is.
Yeah. That's where our main lever is coming, or our main lever, value lever, or whatever is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, that's where the propaganda leads you to believe. Yeah, that's correct.
So I like that concept that I think is most applicable to the now.
And the cornerstone, the ideology where that is the cornerstone, would be called socialism.
I would need to. It's not fair for me to just say that, yes, that is what I would buy into, because I honestly don't know. Like, no one's ever said like, oh, well, here's the platform.
Yeah.
Just like I've gone to the GOP's website and I've read their platform, which is atrocious. I've read the Democrats. I haven't read all of them. It's the Democrat one is so unachievable. It's so like it's so big. Yeah. It's just like, when are you going to do these things? When I think they need to be achievable within the term.
Yeah,
they need things that are achievable within the term that they're serving.
Yeah,
which is why I like the idea of short-term parties.
Right,
from all walks of life, people come together, get a few things done, and then you move on to the next. And for the really big ones, we can have these multi-generational goals, but to have your whole platform to just be like a long arc, like it's just like, that's why nothing gets done. Because what's step number one?
Forward party? Do you want like a party that's about moving forward?
Is it even a party yet, or is it still a pack? Where they're just
probably pack. I mean, I don't even. I mean, I'm derailing myself with that. I mean, the reason the Democratic Party has lofty long-term goals that are almost impossible to what do you call it? Not pin down. What is it? Hold accountable. There's a phrasing I'm thinking of. It's escaping me right now. But the reason that they can't be held accountable, and the reason the goals are of such that you cannot hold them accountable to them, is because it's not about achieving those goals. That's the argument I would make. Whereas the Republican Party is so extreme that their goals are incredibly immediate. That's the thing. It's not even like one party could not look at across the aisle and say, hey, maybe we should fine tune our goals a little bit, because the opposition party has very poignanted, like, this is what we're going to do day one. We win the presidency. We're going to go back to the gold standard. Abortion is going to be illegal across the country. Trans rights eliminated. Bible back in school. Like, this is like, they've got like, this is week 1, this is week 2, week 3. And the opposition party is like, we want human peace. We want to protect nature. We want to do things that are incredibly amorphous, and we will not give you guidelines or specificity towards how we're going to achieve it. And you know what we call that, people? Ratchet politics, right? Because one side gets in and they achieve everything they want to do, and they move that thing to the right, and the other party gets in with amorphous goals, and they hold the line until the other party comes back and moves it more one way or the other. Ratchet politics, my friend.
And the other part that's tripping me up with answering your question is that when you're talking about socialism, it's like there's a concept and then there's the party, right? There's the ideology and then there's the party.
Ignore the party. Yeah.
But that's kind of what I have a problem with, is the party. And because when you're talking about
capitalism, I didn't say join the DSA.
Well, you're talking about capitalism, right?
Don't do that.
There's no, I mean, I don't think there's like a capitalist party, because we're
they're called the Republican and Democratic parties. There is
that's what I'm.
Party.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the main party because that's the governing ideology of the country. Yeah.
I would need, so that's what I mean. Like, I mean, I guess there's like books that I could read on the tenets of socialism, but I mean,
you like try.
But what like I like for me to say like that's what I'm buying into, I just need to know more about it. And if it's going to be this amorphic thing, well then I amorphically support it. I mean,
it's
I don't
not
know.
about
I support it when it's convenient to me, and if it's convenient more often than not, then so be it. But I don't.
yeah.
Why do I have to say that that's what it is? Just like why do I have to say that if it's capitalism or communism or any other type of ism that's out there or ist that's out there?
Yeah.
Like what do I don't know. Like what does it matter? I guess just like what's the problem and what's the best solution that we have for it?
I mean, without going down, too much of a rabbit hole with it, the only reason socialists are allowed about being socialists is because you're a minority within a majority. The reason no one else is running around the street going, "Man, I love capitalism," is because you're supporting the overall capitalistic ideology, which is the majority ideology of the country. So I mean, basically just operating and doing as you're told is supporting capitalism. So you're supporting capitalism in almost every way, shape, and form of your existence. So you don't have to go around and saying, "Hey, I'm a capitalist," because just by going to the store and buying from a monopoly, because you without making that choice to say, I'm going to try to support a local business, you're more likely not going to, because the monopoly is strangleholding and price fixing, and it's the
So
cheaper option.
how do you reconcile that
Saying.
with government spending on things where it's a socialist policy or
There is
social
no
program,
government spending with socialist policy. That doesn't happen in this country.
social security, Medicaid,
Oh,
Medicare?
you mean what we tried to enact back in the 40s?
Well,
That's supposed to be gone by now? Yeah, you're right. Socialist policy was enacted way back in the
yeah, but
day.
that's what I mean. Like we
Yeah,
have these
we
things. So
have
you,
them,
in the
and
same
people
way that
don't
you're
want to
saying,
let them go.
in the same way that, yeah, but that's my point is that
But
it's not 100%. Or no, I'm not saying that it's not. I'm asking the question.
yeah.
You're saying that you're participating in capitalism by going to the store and buying from Monopoly, but aren't you
Right.
also participating in socialism by doing some of the things that we just talked about? When you
Like
go
you
to
said,
when you go to a park, when you call the police or fire department, or you use your military, or any of these things, when you go to a library, when you drive on a road, like all of these things that
yeah.
government is for,
Right.
is this not also participating in socialism?
It is. You're absolutely right. No, I mean, I think you made a really good point. These things are the things that are socialistic that we do not triumph in our society. But the thing is, in order to be a civilization, in order to be a society, there are elements, fundamental elements, where socialism is baked in and at its core. When socialists are yelling at their lung capacity about we need more socialism in the country, we're talking about elevating it, right? Because like you said, we have roads.
Well,
Those roads,
we poorly fund our government programs and then complain that they
and
don't
then
work,
complain that they don't
like
work.
education, right? Like
There you
we
go.
have
Yeah,
them, we just do them
yeah.
poorly, almost by design, to say let's not give government too much power
Well,
because
that's part of it. That's part of it.
they don't know what they're doing.
Well, I mean, yeah, yeah. You said it. You said it. You said it. That's part of what it is. That's part of what it is, but only part. Because, like I'm trying to say, is that you basically have these socialistic tenets that were derived after the Second World War, and we still have them today because people don't want to give them up. People won't vote for a party that says, "Hey, we're getting rid of Social Security. It's going to be gone within 10 years." That party's dead in the water. They know it. So what socialists are talking about is that now there are new things in this world that also need to be as set in stone as giving retirees money so that they can live once they've stopped working. So you're just raising the bar. That's all it is. And people are fighting against raising the bar. They're like, we don't want the bar raised. And quite frankly, they don't want the existing things that are in place to exist, which is why you have defunding of America's education system so that we all enter into some sort of privatized school system where it's just about who can pay the most in order to actually have their children learn to read. But I would say the people who are advocating that are absolute lunatics, because a society that is illiterate is more dangerous in terms of the way that they act within their democracy than an educated population. I mean, an illiterate, uninformed populace. I mean, if fascism doesn't come for that, I don't know what will. So yeah, that's sort of like, it's what is it, the what is it, where you're eaten by the young, what is that phrasing about getting eaten by the young? It's like you've been eaten by your children kind of scenario. I talk about that, like the
I
chicks
don't
will come
know.
home to roost. No, I talk about it all the time with, like, you guys got like guys like Ted Cruz who are incredibly educated, incredibly eloquent people. Well, I mean, within his world, I mean, he was a debate champion or whatever. So he actually, whatever you feel about Ted Cruz, he actually has training in debate
Yeah.
and being eloquent. And he comes from an
He
Ivy
is
League
the
school.
elite. The
He is the
elite
elite. Exactly.
is
He
the elite.
pretends
The
to be an
elite
everyman
that he rails against. He is that.
I'm like,
he is benefited from all of it.
and you don't say it, but I keep saying, I'm like, there's no way a guy like that is going to survive when the people he is advocating to take over actually take over. Kmart. Kmart is
The thing is, can't these people then just be decent? I mean, the fear would be
money,
that
man.
is
Money.
that the population will get wise to the lies. Okay, so then can you just stop lying and govern?
You could. But I would say, look at Kmart, right? Kmart, which is, we're recording on today when Kevin McCarthy is no longer the speaker in a historic upset. Well, upset to, depending on who you are, but I guess it's never happened before, which is sort of alarming to me that a party has never said, "Hey, we're tired of our speaker. We're going to get rid of them." I mean, the fact.
Are you alarmed with how toxic parties are?
I'm alarmed that as toxic as parties are, that they've never cooed a speaker. I mean, I think that speaks.
Yeah,
that kind
parties
of
are horrible. Long-term
I don't know what you're
parties are
getting at.
horrible.
I'm saying that the fact that the fact that they've got inertia, that it's like you make a bad decision and you were willing to sit with it for how many terms or years that the speaker is speaker. That's crazy to me that they've never what do you call it? They've never cooed a speaker until now, which is kind of alarming. That's what I'm getting at as well.
Well, it's because I mean, for me, it's because they're being consumed. They're being taken over by the fringe.
Yeah, well,
they've courted this mega fascist movement, and now it's taking them over.
Yeah.
And so this is a transition. And maybe that hasn't happened too many times because in the past, maybe a new party just pops up.
A new party pops up.
A new party, they splinter off. A new party has popped up in the past, and then you had that, however fleeting it may have been.
That's correct. Yeah.
But because these two parties have consolidated so much power, they've strangled out. I mean, that's what we get into when you talk about third party thresholds for debates and getting on the stage during general elections, is because the two parties have basically made a deal to strangle anyone else from ever.
Yeah, so the only way you can be a third party is by infiltrating, and basically eating them from within, which has happened before. That's what's also horrible about this, because the Tea Party happened before, and that's where everything was sort of moving further right. I mean, look, we're not experts, we're not political experts on this kind of thing, but I guess what I was getting at in terms of the alarm is just that it's never happened before, and the fact that it managed to actually happen now. It's like the party was already further right than right. The fact that there's an even more extreme fringe that is waiting in the wings is kind of wild when you I mean, it is and it isn't, depending on how you've been paying attention to what's going on. But the fact that this guy, and I call him Kmart because he is like the lowest of the marks. I mean, he basically begged everybody to make him speaker. It's like you forget it exists. You're like, all right, there's Walmart, there's Amazon, there's the big guys. And then you got Kmart coming in here, and he shouldn't have been there, but he got his foot in the door. He got a seat at the party. He was doing his thing. He begged everybody. What did it take? It was like a record. What did it take? Like a month for this guy to get in? Like how many sessions did he have?
Something silly. It was crazy. The amount of votes that needed to happen.
Yeah. So it's not
enough to make jokes about it.
Right. So it's not anything particular to say, all right, wow, it's crazy this guy lost his job, because no one wanted him there to begin with. But the fact that there is so much status quo within Washington, and you just sit with it, even if you don't like somebody, you sit with it until the end of their tenure. And these upstarts came in and were like, no, you screwed up, you're out.
Well, I think normally you would have, but you probably had people who ruffled for some feathers, caused some waves, and then they were pacified. They got what they wanted in pork spending. They stuffed a bill with other things, and you get a bridge to nowhere. And then they pipe down. But these people, like you said, this MAGA movement is so. There was no pacifying them.
Yeah, there's none.
There was no deal that everyone else would have gotten on board with.
No,
so that's probably the difference. Is it
no sane deal? Hostile, no sane deal, because what they wanted was a complete government shutdown in order to get their way. And they would have held the government hostage, which is another thing that is, for a sane or a centrist, just, mind, like your mind just explodes. You're like, oh, wait. You literally default on our debt. You default on our standing. You'd have us lowered in terms of our borrowing ability in the world. you basically grind everything to a halt in order to get your way. So much so that you're basically, what is it? You're spiting your face, that you're biting your, what is it? Carving out your nose. Thank you. Yeah. That you would do it, but in real time, for a nation, for the most powerful nation in the world. I put that in quotes because we have the biggest military. That's why we're the most powerful now, and it's all we have. So if we don't keep spending in terms of the military, we're toast. We have to. We're Sparta. I mean, it's like, congratulations, everyone. You go back to history. If we're Sparta, we have to, or Rome in its dying days. It's like we can't spend on education, we can't spend on science, we have to spend on military, because the only thing that we have that is holding us on top, and God forbid we ever fall from it. So, it's like spend on military until you're basically, you collapse essentially, because you're just like a complete militaristic nation, and you have no culture, no science, no anything. You eventually just erode from the inside out.
Yeah, it is the next evolution of, who is it? Newt Gingrich, who enacted the scorched earth policy, where he like really kickstarted all this tribalism.
Yeah.
Between the two parties, and this is like it taking the next step.
Yeah,
where they would rather see it burn to the ground than not get their way.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
it's almost biblical. It's almost as if it has like,
but it's like, but it's. I mean, I want to say it's immature. It's just like, what do you? I have a hard time. Like, where do you want this country to actually be? Like, we've read excerpts of the, what is it, 2025 plan? We know. That's people what you're trying to get to. Man. If you're going to do something as extreme, if you're going to do something as extreme as bring back the gold standard, things that just most average Americans would just say, what? Wait, what? Like, if that's the kind of thing that is in your pamphlet, you are going to go through the most dire of loopholes. It's like they're trying to make it post-apocalyptic.
Yeah,
like, why
in order to make it. Yeah,
why are we like? It's just I don't understand.
Max, right? Yeah,
it's just so silly. It's silly. That's what I'm saying. It's like childish, except it's super dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's like childish is the right word.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's the danger.
What is going on?
Right.
Like, what do you, like, you look at The Handmaid's Tale, or you look at some dystopian novel or film adaptation, and you're like, wow, that's crazy. Who would want that? Do people actually look at that and they're like, I want that? Like, honestly, like, is it there? Yes. Do people actually look at these things and are like, I don't get it. What's so bad?
I think so. I do think so. I do think there are people who watch it and say, yeah, that this is a really, they say that this is like some weird leftist tilt to a relatively utopian society. I do think there are people who are like, this is, it's a society that is built strictly on the word of God, and adheres to the T to biblical teaching.
I feel like they would be like,
that's exactly what some people say.
We don't need the white bonnets. That's crazy, but everything else, solid.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's like they'll nitpick at these like mundane details.
That's what's funny about it. I mean, not funny about it. There's nothing funny about it, but that's one of those ridiculousnesses that it doesn't. No one, even the Handmaid's Tale people, probably didn't conceive that it would get to that state. It's because once you start there, you snowball, you continue down that path, because otherwise people are going to start to say, okay, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I don't like this anymore. And you can't have that. You have to keep pushing the envelope more and more extreme in order to keep people down the path of what you want them to be basically riding. You have to continue to make it worse and worse.
You got to chase the fear, right? You got to chase the fear. And
you got to chase the fear, but you also have to make them feel powerless. You have to make people feel like,
well, that's what I mean. You take their liberty away. Yeah. Like, that's what you use, fear to take liberty away, because that's what we all are willing to give up. But safe. I'll do whatever
to feel safe. Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, look, I don't know if we'll get there in our lifetimes, but we're definitely, we're flirting.
I want to say we're not. I want to say that we will recoil from this, that we will bounce back. I mean, I don't know what bounce back to. I don't know, like, bounce back into utopia. No, but like, I feel like there's going to be the next pendulum swing. I just feel like that's going to happen.
I don't really know how you get there, to be honest with you. I mean, I know I didn't want the episode to be political because we're talking about climate change, but But I'm serious. I mean, I think that we have a hard road ahead of us because these people, the beginning of how they're doing this is by eroding trust in government. And you said it, the beginning, again, back in the early 90s, the whole point of it was defund government so that doesn't work very well and people won't trust it. And they'll turn to capitalism because the companies will to appear much more efficient, much more innovative to what government can do because, again, government has little to no resources. And so, of course, corporations are going to look nice and shiny. But this is different. This is a completely different thing. This is about eroding the tenets of like the core of our government. They don't want, it's like between what the Supreme Court has been doing, which is I just think this is like the worst time to have this kind of scandal and to be seen as so easily bought. So it's like, okay, so you can't believe anything the court does. Great. You can't believe anything the president does. Great. You can't believe what the Congress is doing. Great. The Senate is against you. It's not just that the government is inefficient. It's that the government is like a lie. It's like the government is actually evil. The government is bought and paid for. The government is here to betray you. I don't know how you come back from that. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how you restore faith in institutions.
Well, you have to work to restore faith, but I think
who does that?
Well,
who does that?
Luckily, we do have elections, and hopefully,
yes, but people don't trust either party.
Yeah, but I think what cannot be lost in that comparison or in that view is the alternative. You create a power vacuum, something will fill it. You don't want corporations to fill it because there is no election. And we've seen what corporate greed can do. We had Enron and Bernie Madoff and all these like big things that happen because it usually takes a big thing for these people to get caught. And I think that should be very telling that there's stuff is happening in corporate America as well. You don't.
Except they're the greatest marketers around. So they may be doing bad things, but they're also releasing a new iPhone and they're doing a new Meta like headset. And they're doing this really cool. And they've got AI and this is all flashy. And you're constantly bombarded with it because the media is just like, they're affixed to the dopamine drip. So they're just doing all the marketing for the corporations. They're just like, hey, did you know that there's Amazon's Blockbuster sale and you're going to get all these things off cheap? And then Christmas is coming and you got to buy this from Apple. And then you've got Best Buy and you've got Walmart and no one talks about Kmart. That's why Kevin McCarthy's Kmart, but just saying they've got the greatest arm in terms of marketing that any institution would dream of. And who keeps getting shat on? Who doesn't get anything special? You know who never gets this like, oh, look at these great accolades that they're doing? The Congress, the Senate, the judiciary. Every piece of news is just, oh, they suck today. They're horrible. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. The parties are terrible. You're hearing it from whichever mainstream media you're listening.
I get it.
You're bombarded with corporations good,
but you're like comparing. Bad. Yeah, I mean, to compare your iPhone to like the bridge working, or the tunnel not collapsing, or I don't whatever else government does. like there's
but no one. But think about it though. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm just asking you to like what.
Like, no one's marketing. No one's marketing to be like, we finished painting the bridge this year.
That's my point.
Time to start over. Like, it's just not a thing. So I guess
exactly.
People to just be more aware of the roles. It's not. I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know in socialism what the role of a corporation is, if there is one at all.
There is one. They can do whatever they want.
Okay, so I do feel like they do serve a purpose.
They corporations. That's the thing. When people start,
but when people start to say, I don't want the government to do this, or I don't trust the government, then the reaction to that would be to compel change in government, new officials, whatever it may be, to get more engaged, not to deregulate, not to deregulate or to privatize it.
I'm just saying that what you're saying funnel new people into this institution. And I'm saying that the opposition have taken away your faith in the institution itself, not the people in the institution. It's the institution.
No, but that's stupid. Because what's the institution? A bunch of policies and rules. You can always change that. It is the people. The people who are
who
are executing those rules and policies are lacking in integrity.
I think
whatever it may
that's
be.
not how. I do not believe that people are.
I mean,
it's not.
It's not that. It's not that the building itself is falling apart. And like the institution of education, the building's literally bad. The people are good, but no, it's the people. It is the people at the top that are executing the vision. They are not doing their jobs. And if you need policy changes, then you can make it. But the idea that they're losing confidence in the institution itself, and you're going to like somehow position the institution as this thing that isn't people, that it's like this, unless the function itself is no longer needed. Like that would be an argument. And is the function itself, is the institution's function outdated? That's a cool argument to make about stuff. But to say that, yeah, we need it, but it's broken, so we're just going to do away. Like, what does that mean?
I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with you. Here's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm disagreeing with is what people are hearing. And the thing is, it's not like,
but I don't know what that means. My question would be, then what? What do you want to, what is
that's I'm
not asking for a detailed plan, but like in your head at the highest level to these people who would say what is it? The mail? The USPS broken. Right, the court's broken, right? Okay, the court's broken,
or education, because that literally
education's broken. Yeah. Education's broken. So, do you want to privatize everything?
Yes.
Not everyone gets to go.
Exactly what.
Not everyone gets to go. Then
that's the answer. That's the answer. That's the tenant that is in the 2025 plan. What's his name? The guy, I forget his name. Vivek, or the guy who's I was talking about because he's gained some popularity. I mean, he was saying it in the first debate. He said, on day one, I will fire everybody in the Department of Education. People make these.
Yeah, but it's that. I mean, I assume that he means rehiring, and then they'll. Again,
I think your assumption is
erode the integrity of the execution of the policies, but the function is still there.
No, like, they're going to just demolish the department. Like, it's gone. Like that's these are the things that people are saying. I mean, and it's in the 2025 plan. It's like you get rid of that department completely and you replace it.
I think people need to really think through what that means. Like for the government, for as bad as we are at educating our populace, to not do it at all is the thing that would be worse.
Well, no one's saying that. That's you. The alternative is you give some responsibility to another department, and then the majority of it is just funded into private. You just prop up more private schools.
Who pays? Yeah, but not everyone can pay for that. So you're going to have a portion of a significant portion of the population who receives no education.
Well, vocational. That's the other thing. You do like vocational schooling.
Can't do vocational school for a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old. Like, what is that? I don't know either. That's the thing. I don't know.
I wouldn't do it.
What do you mean privatize K through 12? Like, I wouldn't do it. What is that? I don't know what that is.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
I mean, God. And then with
well, I mean,
as someone who has young kids, that it costs an arm and a leg to put them through daycare. If these kids aren't going to be in school till vocational school, which is, I'll be generous and say 9th grade, what are you supposed to do with these kids? They could also say
you probably should homeschool. They should say probably someone should stay home and homeschool them.
Okay, so I'll even yield to that, right? I'll entertain that idea. That'll work once. That's going to work one time around, because as soon as you do one lap around that track, then you're going to have uneducated people homeschooling uneducated people. And I will grant you the courtesy to say that at least that first time, the majority of people have at least been to school.
I'm not saying, I'm pointing out the things that you read on the other side. And hey, look, this is called retraction. If people are, if people want to take a look at the 2025 plan and say that, we're off basis, please go ahead. Maybe I've misunderstood when I, what that plan was putting down. But people will come in a little more nuanced and they'll say, well, you do like some sort of voucher program with some sort of like charter schools, and then they will offset some of the costs and the parents are paying. But the fact that parents have to pay anything is going to dramatically shift the way in which people are educated in this country.
It's already bad enough. It's all dependent on property taxes now.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're just going to further hone in on the people who can't afford.
That's correct.
And you're going to consolidate them into what? A worse voucher school? I mean, how does that work? I don't know how that all works. But I mean, my thing would be do it with the military. If it works so well, do it with the military. Well, let's have voucher bases. Voucher military bases.
No,
okay. We're not going to train them all the same. We're going to do voucher military bases. It's going to be based on the local property taxes. We wouldn't even do it. We wouldn't even run our military the way that we run our schools today. That the bases are funded by the local property taxes, and that's correct. It. All right.
Because that's the way it was done back when we were militias.
Yeah. And then we got away from that as like we did with the militia.
Because the British burned down the White House. So you don't want to run a military that way.
So if it's good enough for the military, it's good enough for the education system.
I like that. I've never heard anyone go at it like that. So I think the more people should come at it from that vantage point. They should say we should do exactly as we do with education with the military.
Yeah.
You should just be it's a 1-to-1, and because I'll support that. I get behind that. I would get 180,000% behind doing that. I would say military education, same deal. I would love to see a chartered military system with voucher programs and to have people pay to join the military. That would be interesting. I would love to see the count of the military at that level. You have to pay to join. Oh man,
they gotta buy their own guns.
Yeah,
right.
You can buy your uniform. You get like a little voucher, a little stamps, and then you gotta figure out your food
bunch of hand-me-downs, bunch of hand-me-down uniforms.
Oh man, this is gonna be so much fun. I would love to see if we stay number one at that point. That'll be interesting.
Anyway, you want to do some climate stuff?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we might as well because you gotta. Yeah.
Do some climate stuff. All right, we'll do some climate stuff.
Do a climate story.
All right, I had two quick things I wanted to do before I jumped into climate. One was I wanted to shout out to Nikki McCann Ramirez, a political reporter for Rolling Stone. She invited us to Bluesky, so we have an account there now. We're on there, once a day, once every couple of days. But if you're on Bluesky, check us out. Got some follows, got some posts up. It's kind of a ghost town compared to a Twitter or X at this point, but there are some people on there, and it's interesting. So check us out if you're on there.
What about Threads? And what's our Threads account like?
I did not do a Threads account.
Oh, you're missing out.
Am I?
No.
Yeah,
not that I've heard.
I've heard it's like plummeting and usage is down, and
yeah, I don't.
And I don't think we did it because of how it's tied to your Instagram account, and you can't get rid of it once you do it.
Okay.
But so is that, and then the other one is I have a retraction from our last episode. I was listening back to it, and it's an embarrassing retraction, but I made a passing comment that Germany is landlocked. And it is not. I was wrong. It is not landlocked. So just a correction there. Don't know why I said it. Totally incorrect. But I said it. It was wrong. There you have it.
What is it? The North Sea? Like up there?
Yeah. There's two of them, I think.
It must have been so quick because I could have gotten that one.
Yeah, I don't have excuses. I said it. It's in the recording, and I was wrong. So there you go. Retraction.
Jamie's got das Boot.
All right. So we've been covering climate change, and it is a serious topic. It's a serious challenge that we as a species are failing to overcome. Challenge of our own doing, by the way. We are burning fossil fuels and continuing other unsustainable practices that are increasing the rate of change in our environment. And because it's a serious challenge and we're failing at it, our topics are mostly criticisms and overall, negative, I guess one could say. Antoine called it out on our last couple episodes, maybe more towards the end of each one. And I will not let our species fail to overcome another challenge. So this time, Antoine, I'm going to highlight some positive climate change news.
I love it. Positivity coming our way, despite.
We'll see if you can tear it all apart and stuff, but
yeah, so, go for it. Yeah, you got some good stuff.
Antoine's going to poke holes. Antoine's going to be the Debbie Downer. That's fine. That is fine. But we'll switch roles here.
Okay.
So, according to the EPA, Biden's Inflation Reduction Act has put the U.S. on track to cut carbon emissions by 35 to 43% by 2030 from 2005 levels.
Cool.
So the Inflation Reduction Act took effect in August 2022 and provides nearly $400 billion through 2031 in tax credits to help consumers buy electric vehicles and companies produce renewable energy. I guess the caveat is that any new administration can come in and change things.
Why'd you steal
renewables
my
are,
thunder?
as we know.
You
Go ahead.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. I mean, that's the first thing I was thinking in my head. I was like, so how in stone is this? Like, can the new next administration start basically roll it back and then start chipping away? And
Yeah,
you just said
they
it.
most likely could.
You said
Yeah.
that they most likely can, and it's a quite high likelihood that Trump will be ruling the American like he'll be the emperor from his seat in jail. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be real fun.
You think he'll have a cell phone in jail where he's just like making calls? He gets it confiscated every
Well,
couple
yeah, he'll have to
weeks.
have some
Then he
sort of
just gets a new
special
one.
executive privilege. Yeah, he'll be running the penthouse and the White House at the same time, which is going to be like a crazy memoir claim to fame kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So there's that part, and then there's the whole renewable thing, because we covered before that places like Florida are burning trash and selling them as renewable credits, which really doesn't do anything to cut carbon emissions. In fact, it's polluting not just the planet, but the people living around those sites. So
Wait, I thought you were supposed to be the upside. What
yeah,
is this?
the upside. So the upside is that I'm trusting the EPA and their analysis of this act, and that one way or another, even if they're using the burning trash loophole,
Yeah.
that we are on track to cut carbon emissions by 35 to 43% by 2030, which we should be at, I think, 50% by 2030. I think that's the goal. So we're close, right? We're close, because I think by the end of the century or something like that, we're supposed to be, or no, I'm sorry, by 2050, I think we're supposed to be at net zero. Which means we could still be pumping some carbon. It's
Yeah.
not zero emission,
Right.
but we have enough carbon capture technology to get it, right?
Yeah,
so
that's what
we could
net
still be
zero
burning
is.
some fossil fuels in 2050, but still be at net zero. Both things can be true.
I mean, if ExxonMobil is no longer a company, I don't know how I'll sleep at night. I mean, that's really where we're at right now. You know, we gotta do it.
I mean, they can convert, right?
Not according to them.
What do you mean? What
I'm
they
saying
say?
they're like, you know, we can be gas and being, you know, energy independent, which is how they basically, in order to defend yourself, you have to roll yourself into our country's defense. So they literally position themselves as part of like our military defense. I mean, that's how you, if education could figure out a way, if schools could figure out a way to get part of the military funding and be in that fold to say good schools is part of our American military defense. If they can start doing that, education will be a lot better in this country.
Maybe every K through 12 could just be a military school.
Don't put ideas.
It'll be very Ender's Game.
Don't put ideas. I could see it right now. Literally, I could see the pen across Project 25. It's just like it's erasing a number of the charter things and it's replacing it with military academies everywhere.
I mean,
it's what we're gonna need to do, because the only
I mean,
yeah.
You even said it. How did we get our interstate? How do we get anything done? It's all military, right? So there you go. We talked about it before. The only way you
it's coming.
Population is war.
It's coming.
All right. So there's that. Moving on, in South America, Suriname announced plans to become the first country to sell carbon credits under a system set up by the 2015 UN Paris Agreement to curb climate change. So very different from the crap they're pulling down in Florida, folks. Do not get it confused with that. These are legit carbon credits. And this is different than the carbon market in general, where you'll find private initiatives like the Florida one, but more than just the burning trash, where you find these private initiatives that fail to deliver the promised climate contributions. Instead, the Suriname will follow the UN guidelines, but carbon market experts are still wary that selling credits might not represent legitimate actions to limit global warming. So how does this all work? Suriname basically identifies how much carbon stock, and this is actually really interesting, so listen up.
Okay.
This country is going to identify how much carbon stock is in the forest, in their forest. It then preserves its forest and increases the carbon stock, and it packages those gains as carbon credits. So I guess the idea is that the forest has enough global impact, and how it's applied to ecosystems is where I have a question. But I guess it's still a positive step, because, all right, let's just say that they keep building up their forests It keeps gaining acreage. However you measure a forest.
I like it.
But does that actually impact someone on the other side of the planet? I don't know. Like, I don't know,
Well,
if all of a sudden,
carbon.
if all of a sudden on the East Coast here, we dry out our lakes and we pave over our swamplands and we destroy all that. Like, I don't know what it does. Or if we pollute the ocean, I don't know what that does here. But it's a good step. I mean, I understand the logic, and I think if that was adopted more widely, then we wouldn't have to worry about the dynamics of impact across the globe. But I thought that was interesting to like say, like, here's what we have. This is what it's producing in terms of carbon capture, or carbon stock, and then we're going to expand it, and then we know the calculation, and then we can sell that as a credit. That seems legitimate.
I like it. That's a really I don't have anything negative to say about it. I think that sounds wonderful.
All right,
we are all interconnected. I mean, we don't know how these things impact one another until we do a study on them. Part of one of the stories I read across is that there's like microplastics in like the clouds in Japan. Japanese scientists are like, there are microplastics in the clouds.
That's awesome.
I'm just trying to say that it's not like it's the only microplastics came from Japan. Yeah, I'm sure the microplastics have come from the world over. Could be from anywhere. So I'm just saying we're all interconnected. Just because if you're doing something in your place doesn't mean that it's not helping someone else elsewhere.
Right? Well, it's like, effect. Yes. I think that, I've seen at least enough documentaries where there is an interconnection around the globe. To what degree that impact is, when you're doing these types of activities of pollution and increasing your carbon sink, I don't know. Like they used to say the Amazon rainforest were the lungs of the world,
right?
Where it does have a global impact, but it is not that, right? It is very much, localized in terms of its direct impact to the environment. And so I guess my question to anyone who may know around this Suriname thing is that, should those carbon credits only be sold to people in the region? Is that where that's where they should be valid? Because that's where the impact is going to be felt from that activity of increasing their forests. That's kind of the question I would have. If I don't know exactly where it is on a map, even though there's a map right behind me, but wherever Suriname is on the exact opposite, like, is that forest really going to impact what's happening over there? Or should they not be eligible to purchase those credits because it just isn't the same thing? That's my question.
Yeah. I think it's a legit question. I think they're and it's worth researching. I'm still a little stumped by the decimating the Amazon rainforest. You're saying would have no impact on our lives whatsoever.
I'm saying that how it converts carbon into oxygen, and it's the lungs of the world. That's what it was saying. Mm-hmm. If you got rid of it all, does it have no impact? I don't know. But is it providing clean air or more oxygen to someone on the other side of the planet? I don't think it is. I think that they have their own mechanisms for that. And the ocean is a mechanism for that. There are other carbon sinks around the world that do that. Yeah, so if you got rid of it, would it impact?
Putting more pressure on another, and if that other cannot offset. Yeah,
but then to say that it's the lungs of the world, I mean, I just don't know.
I hear what you're saying, if that you're being that dramatic about it.
But because that's how it's positioned. Because then that means that you could just say, okay, screw everything else. We'll just make sure that Amazon's really good because it's the lungs of the world. Like, I just don't want to fall that mental, that comfort trap of, well, at least we have this. Yeah, because I don't know if it's that influential. I think it has influence, but I do not think it's as influential as an analogy saying like that would portray.
Its loss is detrimental, but not catastrophic. Yeah, I think that's where you're getting at, essentially. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but to that credit, it's like, so, what Suriname's doing, their credits, it's still probably a good idea to incentivize that behavior across the world.
That's what I was saying. Everyone should be doing more stuff like that. That is amazing. But to say like, okay, we're just going to decimate all the forests everywhere else, and we're just keep buying credits from these people, when in reality, you'd have to imagine the impact that is having. It gets farther and farther away from that point. That epicenter, that it just has less and less effect. I mean, that's like a logical assumption to make. So even though there's an interconnectivity, there is a domino effect. Yeah. The domino that's in Suriname is not falling on something else directly. So I just think that more understanding is needed, and that this is a win, but it shouldn't be one that we hang on to. We need to continue winning.
Okay. I like
All
it.
right. Other, Germany is likely to pass a new milestone. 50% of its power will come from solar and wind renewable energy this year. And California Governor Gavin Newsom said he would sign legislation that would require large companies with over $1 billion in revenue to disclose their carbon footprints like greenhouse gas emissions. The bill has made it through the state Senate, and apparently they're just cleaning up some language, whatever that means, but then he's going to sign it.
So they disclose it. So what?
At least, I guess. Transparency.
Oh, okay. Well, no,
I mean,
I wanted to be, I didn't want to be facetious about it. I mean, I was wondering, is there, does California have some sort of cap to say if you're exceeding this, then there is some sort of legislative action, like, or some sort
I
of
don't know.
fine,
I don't know
right?
if there's like a phased approach where we're like, all right, education is key. We need to raise awareness. We need to be transparent. We need to know what these people are doing. We need to have comparisons between companies so that consumers can make, because I assume once you have to open this up, then it's going to get into the marketing material. I assume people are going to compete to have a lower carbon footprint, and that's hopefully will have a cascading effect.
Yeah, because they want that. Well, they want that PR cachet, not because people are actually not going to buy from them. If Starbucks, if Starbucks ended up having like a ridiculous carbon thing because the CEO flies every hour on a private jet, people are still going to buy Starbucks, right? I mean, it's
not
it's
if
just,
there's what's another coffee
thing.
one? Is it it's like a Jeffrey, or what was that? What was the one with the dude's face? That coffee.
I'm
Is that
leaving
like,
you in the lurch. I can't think of it right. Joffrey,
you know,
that one.
no,
There's something like that, right?
You know what I'm talking about, though, right? There's like a coffee shop
maybe.
that's like a Starbucks. It's got like it's like the dude's head, like the top third of his head is the logo. I cannot
Dunkin'?
remember.
Trying to
No,
make
well, fine. Let's just take it Dunkin' Donuts, for
Yeah,
instance.
you might as well just go with a big
but
boy.
all right, no, it's not Dunkin' Donuts because it's not on the same level. I want to be fair.
Dunkin' Donuts is on the same level. Dunkin' Donuts is more there are more Dunkin' Donuts in this
No,
country
but
than there are Starbucks.
that's not what I'm talking about, though.
Oh.
That's like saying no, that's not the same. They're not on the same level. People do not perceive them to be equal.
Oh, you're talking about from like a consumer standpoint, something that is equitable. So you're saying that the person who is spending that much money on Starbucks, if they found out that Starbucks is doing,
so if you have two, or we'll take McDonald's and Burger King on the corner,
and
they're having carbon footprint marketing competition.
Yeah.
And one is at 90% and one is at 20%. You're going to go with the 20%. Like most people would say, I don't care enough. I'm going to go to 20%. Maybe. I think that would be the thought behind that.
If they were high-end restaurants, because they're about fast food is cheap. No one's making that. No one's taking that into account when they decide to pull up to McDonald's. They're like, do I like my McDonald's coffee? Do I like my Egg McMuffin? Have I been doing it for 22 years? If so, I'm going to keep doing it.
I don't know. I'd be curious to know how much it will weigh on people.
0.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, no,
it would weigh on me if I had something I really liked.
That's because you're not religious about it. You don't go to Starbucks every day. You're not the target consumer. You're not a person who frequents with regularity. That's the majority of their money. That's the people that they have to worry about. They're not going to worry about the guy who buys Starbucks once a month, whether he's like, all right,
Gregory's.
Yeah, Gregory's just came into my head. Yeah.
Gregory's. Yeah. I just popped in my head.
Yeah, they're not gonna be like that. Yeah, that guy's gonna go to Gregory's because he only goes once a month. So he's got this.
Oh, but you have a Gregory's and you have a Starbucks. You have a Gregory's and a Starbucks, and there's a
Which one's closer to work? Which one's closer?
No, they're both on the corner. They're both like
right.
They have these things operate,
competing with one another. Right. And then, he's going to go to Gregory's. But the guy who's been going to Starbucks for his specific latte for the past 10, 15 years, he's not going to go to Gregory because Gregory's has a smaller carbon footprint. That's not realistic. That's just not the way consumers behave. There's no way.
I think they could.
They could, but there's no reason to. Yeah. Especially if Starbucks says, "Hey, guess what? We got caught red-handed. We're going to lower our all coffees are 25 cents less than they used to be." Everyone's back. Like that. Bada boom. They're back. I'm not cynical. I'm just saying that's the reality. That's the real.
I think people need to be more educated, because I think that understanding the impact of your purchase, I think, matters, but you have to believe in that impact. You have to understand what that impact actually means.
You're also not going to say that Starbucks is worse than like Exxon Mobil or Shell. That's the other thing, is there's always going to be a war of who's worse, and everyone's always going to play a game of like, well, we're not the worst. We're maybe the worst in this instance, but we're not. What is it? All roads lead back to Hitler. It's always going to be that. It's like, we're not Hitler. We're not doing what we're doing, but we're not Hitler. We're not alone, and there's other people doing it. And then, of course, the CEO is going to come out and be like, well, what about China? It's always going to be some boogeyman that you're able to deflect to. So that the thought that consumers,
I think, yeah. I mean, if you could, because then you could maybe like track your personal carbon impact with the decisions that you're making in terms of consumer purchases.
Hey, we've talked about that.
Where you're like, hey, you're right. I do have to fill up my tank, and it doesn't matter which gas station I go to, but I got to fill it up, and that's going to eat into 80% of what I wanted to spend in terms of carbon today.
Yeah.
So now I have to tone it back. It's just like calorie counting, right?
If you go after the individual, which is unfortunate, but yeah, that you would actually see some serious. Like, we talked about that. We had a whole thing about that. You're going after the individual. I get it, but not punitive. We talked about that. If you're rewarding the individual to say that you could offset in taxes, or you could get some sort of check by proving that your carbon.
If there's a government app and you just track your purchases,
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, why not? You give your information off to corporations all the time for tracking your purchases.
Yeah, no, I'm not downplaying it. And I'm saying if that was the incentive, that'd be interesting.
Take the credit card information every time you make that spend, and you want that 5% cash back. Except,
well, we have that on a township level now, that if you shop local, you get to submit it when you're doing like your taxes.
Oh, so you've already got something in practice. You just move that up to the federal level, and you could get some. Yeah, then you're going to see it. Then now Starbucks cares. Now Starbucks is going to be like, okay, I got caught red-handed. People want that money. So they're not going to buy from me anymore. They're going to go over to Gregory's. That's good policy. That's the kind of policy we don't see in action. Why? Because that moves the needle. And you don't move the needle when you're in a what? What is it, kids? Ratchet politics, ratchet government, right? Where both parties don't really want to do anything, right? That's the thing. What you just said is fantastic. We're not brilliant. We're not geniuses. We're not poli-sci majors, but it just seems so what is it? So natural. So it's almost as if governments are built by people, and you could write laws, based off of just the way that the human condition operates. Isn't that fun? It's a lot of fun to me. That sounds like one of those, incentivizing the individual to offset their own carbon footprint, so that way you can look at it on a national level, and that will then really affect corporations. So instead of targeting corporations for a stunt, so that the media talks about the legislation,
I mean, instead of regulating corporations, you're incentivizing people.
You can't regulate corporations because you live in a capital. It's like regulating Mickey Mouse and Disneyland. It's built for Mickey Mouse. Disneyland and Mickey Mouse are the same. You can't regulate somebody who the whole ethos is built for. So the only thing you can do is regulate the
outlawed
consumer.
Paper bags, right? They outlawed paper or plastic bags.
Oh yeah, that's real hurt. Yeah, that's hurting everybody. In fact, have you read a single?
Can they just outlaw like gas cars eventually and just like mandate?
You reminded me that every time I do this pod, I keep trying to say I need to look at an article to actually see what is happening, because they replaced all the plastic bags with these like fabric trash things, and I'm like, these are all going to the dump too. What goes into making these? What is their eventual lifespan in terms of being dumped? Because again, it's not as bad as plastic, but even on the bag itself, the bags never say recyclable. They say recyclable by using multiple times. And I remember there was a study way back where it's like you had to use them like 20, like 100. It was something ridiculous. I'm pushing the number up, but it was something that most people are not using the bag for the rest of their life. The bag gets used 1, 2, 3 times more and then ends up in the trash. So I want to know, what are we offsetting with that? I mean, I'm happy it's not plastic, but it's not like it's paper either. It's these stupid fabric bags.
It is a very fair point. I don't know the supply chain, like what it takes to create these things. It's fair.
I don't want to throw them out, but every time you order from the grocery store, every time you do like a Instacart, they come with like 10 of those bags. What are you gonna do with 10 bags a week? you're like, maybe you shouldn't do Instacart. It's like, well, maybe Instacart shouldn't exist. Well, I mean, maybe I should be incentivized to offset my carbon footprint and not do Instacart. Maybe someone should pay me and I can put that into something else, right?
I don't know.
You do know. We all know. We all know how to make good legislation. And yet we're brainwashed into feeling as if we can't do it. And the only people who could do it are people being paid by corporate lobbyists in order to make legislation that does not benefit you. But I will get off my high horse. I will get off the stump. So
all right. Well, I mean, even though there's some questions about that one, at least Germany is going to get 50% of its power from wind and solar by the end of the year. So yay
Das
for them.
Boots.
Yay for them. Landlocked Germany. Just kidding, everyone. As we clip these.
Hamburg is supposed to be the Venice of the North. Have you ever heard that?
I've been there.
Is it true?
Venice of really?
The North, yeah. Yeah, they say that. It's
isn't
it all
Germany
like
has
rocks and lakes and everything? Like, I mean, not lakes, but isn't it all? It's on the ocean.
Hamburg?
It's not. Oh, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not that far north.
I don't know. I guess
maybe it's just.
I thought I've been to Hamburg and they have like. I mean, it's a pretty place.
No, but there's supposed to be like tons of bridges, right? Because it's like almost.
Maybe I did not. Maybe I didn't explore enough. I don't know. I don't recall. I mean, Colmar, that whole area, Alsace, that whole area, Colmar, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And Alsace is like the German-French border. That's got a lot of canals. I mean, there are rivers all over Europe and stuff. Even like Munich has like beautiful rivers going through parks. But there was a lake. I didn't explore the whole area, but I walked around a decent amount. I don't remember seeing. I've been to Venice. I don't remember seeing canals like that. I mean, even
Alsace. All right. So Hamburg is technically, it has a ridiculous. I mean, if you look it up on a map, I mean, the fact that I don't think you've been to Hamburg. I'll be honest with you.
Maybe I didn't go.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think you've been there.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at
the map.
Where did
it is
go?
Like 90% water.
Yeah,
so
no,
for you
no,
to be like,
no.
I don't remember crossing a river.
No, then maybe
the city is 90% rivers.
And now I gotta find that.
And they are off of the they're off of the North Sea. So I'm not wrong about that. It doesn't.
No, I'm looking at it. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I'm starting to think that
I wasn't there.
I'm starting to think that I didn't go there. Where did I go?
Not there. It's okay. It happens to the best of us. You know, it happens to me all the time. I'm actually just gleeful that I'm right, because the thing is, I was remembering that I was like, it's not exactly right on the water, but it has like an outlet to the ocean.
Now I want to know
technically.
All right, I am going to find out where I've been.
You find out. But it is. I mean, it's like Venice. Yeah. I mean, anyone look it up. You'll see how funny this is, because you put it on Google Maps and it is just 80. I'm gonna be conservative and say it's 80% water.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a lot of canals. I see it right on Google Maps. I am going to have to get back, probably be an update in our next episode. So for those of you that cannot wait to hear where I have been, that makes two of us, and I will tell you where I have been. I have a picture, and I just can't find it on my phone, of me at this place. And I feel like it's probably not here. It's probably not on this phone. I've gotten a new phone since then. And I thought that's so weird. Unless I just really didn't go anywhere.
You might have. I mean, you might have gone. You just never thought about it, because you again, unless you're circumventing the entire city, take a bike tour or something. Maybe you may not realize just how many canals there are. That it could be something like that. But yeah. Even when I was at Stockholm, the first thing I was struck by is like, wow, there's a lot of canals.
Yeah, I don't recall that. I mean, maybe my routine just didn't take me there, but looking at it, it's like, how did I miss it? Unless I was just in another part of it. All right. I thought I've been there.
We're but fallible creatures.
Where drifting now? It's like, where was I? All right. Next time, folks. All right. Anyway, one more update. It is our final good news update. Scientists are creating new habitats to save animals from climate change. So as climate change, agriculture, and urban development destroy natural habitats, many animals are left exposed without shelter from predators and weather. So this is really interesting because I've even done this for animals in the past. And I'm like, not for any period of time, but I understand now, like, wow, I'd never even really understood this completely. So an example is if scientists can recreate hollow trees where owls and bats nest, we can save these ecosystems and species, or at least buy them some more time until we figure out a better solution. So human-made nests and dens have been around for a while. Like I said, I've done it for like stray cats or something that have been out. But these primitive designs left animals vulnerable to predations, overheating, and parasites. So imagine a natural tree cavity protected by wood, insulated, but now imagine a thin plastic box in the sun. It's going to get very hot very quickly. Bat boxes that were done this way reached 116 degrees Fahrenheit, and bats would become dehydrated to the point where they just fell out of their nests. So now scientists are trying to use these 3D printing devices, augmented reality, to assemble the nest by projecting them onto trees so they know exactly how to put these things together. It's really cool if you ever see a video of it. So that they are building these nests or these habitats exactly as they would be done in nature, and using natural construction materials to mimic nature the best that it can. So it's just really interesting. Like instead of just like creating like taking like an old like plastic bin and cutting holes in it and putting a blanket in there and saying, go live there, that thing's going to bake or freeze or whatever it might do. And it's not going to breathe and flex like a normal habitat would. And it certainly doesn't look natural. Whereas if you kind of can use natural materials, 3D print it, and then use augmented reality to construct it so it looks exactly as it should.
That's awesome.
Because form and function are so interwoven in nature. I think it would be I think that's a really cool, positive step forward. And like, it's kind of like, of course, why wouldn't we do that? But it seems like a real epiphany to say maybe we finally knew that that's the way that it should be, but now we have the tech to actually achieve it.
No, I like that a lot. I mean, nothing bad about that. I mean, I am a little like freaked out that you tried to like save stray cats, but other than that,
well, there's animals out there that in the winter and you hear them, you can put like something out there and insulate it, and at least they'll survive the really cold, snowy nights.
Yeah. Don't they like kill like don't they kill like the bird population? Was that like Jonathan Franzen's whole thing? It's like cats in the suburbs or like destroying the songbird population. You could read about it. It was a thing.
I mean,
I know
introducing it. There are
like
feral cat communities, and you'll have like the local vets or even really people, completely normal everyday people who have day jobs will go there and they'll bring them in, they'll nurse them back to health, they'll neuter and spay them, and then they'll release them back in. But you do have feral cat populations and stuff.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether or not they're destroying the local wildlife, I mean, I don't know, they're part of the ecosystem. Like, as long as you're not like breeding them and making them enormous like super packs. There's feral cats.
That's a very like high-minded approach you've got there. It's actually what people are advocating, and by people I mean the experts are advocating with regard to the spotted lanternfly. They're saying that it's no longer an invasive species. It is so pervasive. It's so basically promiscuous. Why don't we call it that? That's how it gets it on. There are so many of them now that they're just now part of the ecosystem, and it's about how do you manage it.
Well, yeah, you can't spay and neuter them. That's the difference. And there's no predator that's going after them. Like with cats, you can trap them, spay and neuter them, and control the populations. You can't do that with the spotted lanternflies, and they're destroying habitats. They are destroying trees that give life to numerous animals.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, right. We can't stop them. So it's like now we just basically have to sort of join them.
I don't know what that means. Like to equate it to what I was talking about with cats, with putting a box out there so it doesn't freeze to death in a blizzard, and then letting the spotted lanternflies just like procreate.
Well, they're not saying you're not letting them. It's similar. You're not letting the cats procreate on it.
No, you're literally spaying and neutering.
You're spaying and neutering them. So you're trying to do the same thing. I guess what I'm saying is that they're basically saying that eradicating them is no longer an option. All you could do is hope to contain them,
All you can
and
do
that's what it's about.
is doing what they're talking about doing with mosquitoes, is releasing mosquitoes that have their genes altered so they can't procreate. Spotted lanternflies are terrible. I mean, and they're dumb as hell too.
I don't
They
enjoy
fly
them.
into you all the time.
I do find them to be visually unappealing and a bit gross. But I also hate the cave cricket, and
That
they're all
is,
over
yeah,
the place too.
those are terrifying beasts. I don't like them, but I mean, spotted lanternfly is, visually it doesn't. I mean, it's, not a butterfly, but
No, it's like this. It's
it's
like
not
the
the
thing
worst
that
thing I've
eats
seen, but
butterflies
it
and
hits
takes
you.
its place.
They fly into you. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
I've never had a bug. It's not landing on you, it's not
no,
biting you. It is dumb flying into
yeah,
you, and it is like a small pebble hitting you, and you're like, what the hell are you doing?
and
Like,
that's because
stop doing that.
yes, because they're like rock mutants.
They're
They're
really dumb. I don't know. Are they blind? Do they have no sensory
I
organs?
just
Or
think that they know that there's very little things that can kill them. That's what's wild. One attached to
they're
my
they're like a
windshield the
kid
other
on roller
day.
skates. You can't stop, and they're just slamming into the walls.
I was gonna say one attached to my windshield the other day, and I thought, all right, if I just hit the speed, like go faster, this thing's gonna fly off. Only to read later that that's their bread and butter. These things are made to latch on in like hurricane-like winds and survive. That's how they travel from state to state. They can get on to high-speed motor vehicles and move. That's I mean, if only we do have adaptability like that. That's why we're everywhere. But it's when we're gone, this is going to be the creature. This is it.
What
The
is
spotted
eating them?
lanternfly is going to
What
take
is
over.
eating them in Asia? What, I want to look this up.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up.
Why predator in is it from China specifically? It's coming up
Yeah,
China.
yeah, yeah. It's China. Yeah, look it up. I'll give you some time.
An egg parasite, like little gross things. Parasite and nymphs.
There are bigger
Really?
things. There are bigger things. There are bigger things. We have them here too. It's just we don't want to you don't want to flood the population with them.
There's from China, Vietnam, and India. Predators of the spotted lanternfly, including praying mantises, chickens, garden
Yeah.
spiders, gray catbirds, yellow jackets, wheel bugs, garter snakes, and koi fish.
You know what's funny? If chickens are a natural predator, I mean, I'd have chickens in my backyard. Why don't we do that? In Brooklyn, there was a huge movement
I
until
mean, I
people
have praying
realized that it's
mantises for
horrible.
sure.
Well, I don't want a bunch of praying mantises all over the place. That's
No,
not helpful. Chickens at least give you eggs.
I mean, they're beautiful, and I don't really mess with them,
Horrifying.
but they scare me.
Yeah, they're
They're
horrifying. No, I
scary.
don't want those all over the place. Think about how many there would have to be to get rid of these.
Yeah, I
But
don't want chickens all over the place. Do you know anyone with chickens? They're loud.
they used to be, that's what people realized in Brooklyn. Everyone was a big this whole like movement of I want my own eggs. I want this
That should
farm
be
to table
illegal.
thing.
In places like that where you have
It,
so many
I think it
people.
might be now because I think because people stopped. So I wonder if it was by law, but there was a huge time where everyone you talk to, people were like, "Oh, I'm going to get chickens in my backyard." And then people realized that they're hella annoying, especially in a
Yeah, we
urban
had
environment.
I've had multiple neighbors in different houses growing up and stuff that had chickens, and they're super loud. And some of them would let them walk around the street, and it's like, yeah, crack of dawn, man.
Oh
These things
yeah,
are
they
out
go
and
crazy.
about.
Yeah, because people think it's only roosters that make the noise, but it's like and people don't realize that roosters also don't. It's not rockadoodle. They don't just crow when the sun's coming up. It's like they crow
Yes.
like every hour or something.
Yeah, it's kind of their thing. Um, yeah, from this list of predators, I don't know what a gray catbird is.
I'm not aware.
Gray catbird. Okay, it's a bird. So I would say out of all those, I'm down with the gray catbirds. Release the birds. Like, just let's just get a bunch of gray catbirds. Like,
Release the kraken.
I'm gonna go buy a gray catbird and just release it.
Just release it. You should start importing them, and I'm
Do
sure
my own
nothing bad
I'm gonna
will
do my own
ever
thing.
happen
Yeah.
from importing a species to get rid of another species. Nothing bad
What could
has
happen?
ever
What could go
happened.
wrong? What could
It's
go
it's
wrong?
not like that was the answer in the 70s, and now we have a bunch of other invasive species roaming about as a result. That's never happened. Florida
It looks harmless.
does not have a huge snake problem because of people bringing in
I mean, other than a koi fish, which I don't have a pond, it's going to be the gray catbird for me because I'm not doing
koi
spider.
Fish eat them too?
Yeah.
Ponds are super expensive.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not
doing
snakes.
That's why there's a whole magazine.
Don't know what a wheel bug is, but that sounds gross.
Nope, no bugs to eat bugs.
Yellow jackets, nope.
Nope.
Spiders, nope.
So far, I'm down with the chickens. Yeah. I'm down with the chickens, and maybe this other bird.
I'm down with the bird. It looks harmless. It looks like
I would love to
not
bird. Have them on my. I would love to know that they would be nowhere near my property because I have a couple of chickens in the backyard. So I'm not above it. I'm sure there's some sort of town ordinance because I'm sure there'll be other chickens already because
it's just that how is the chicken doing anything about this? Maybe the ones that land on the ground that are like already kind of at the end of their life cycle, but they go up on the trees. You need something in the trees. I'm down with the birds. I'm just gonna say, where are these gray catbirds? Let's just see where they live. I'm gonna assume Asia, but let's see. Oh, that's a North American bird.
So why do we have a North American problem?
Because we don't have enough gray catbirds.
That's not what it is.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and just say that.
A native bird that eats these things would mean we would not have this problem. And I've never heard of a gray catbird before.
Catbirds, the catbirds can be pests. They can destroy crops. They love fruit. That's why we don't. They love fruit and wild berries and cultivated fruits.
Okay, so that's why we don't have many of them. Okay, that makes sense.
They will destroy your fruit crops. Which in my neck of the woods there are several farms, so
and that's why you've never seen one, because they've been
glad I didn't release them
by farmers.
Glad I didn't tank my local economy. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go, folks.
Yeah. Now you just have something else that's taking everything. So
yeah,
we can't win. Jamie, where can the listeners find this podcast?
Folks, we got new clips out every week. Fridays are the full episodes. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And with that, my fine feathered friends, retraction. Oh.